Hi, my name is Michelle Carlisle, and this is my music studio. This is a little virtual tour of where I teach lessons and do recordings and things as well. And I actually do teach piano, flute, and Irish whistle, and I'll show you a little bit about all of them. So if you're thinking of learning the flute, you will end up with an instrument that looks a little bit like this. This one has the open holes, which are optional. It's not required. But this is a basic flute in that it's a silver flute pitched in the key of C and is a very versatile instrument. And maybe you're wanting to learn band music, get help with your band music, or perhaps you're interested in playing a range of music. Basically anything can be played on a flute. Classical music, pop music, Celtic, jazz, Latin, rock music, anything is doable. The flute is a lovely sound. It's like an extension of the human voice.
Oh, okay.
There's another bunch of notes that go right below where you're down here. You've noticed on your end joint that you've got these extra keys?
Yeah.
So that's mostly used for the low notes. So here's G. So they're hard notes too, like the high notes, but we're going to work our way up and we're going to work our way down. There are some other members of the flute family. I'll give you a little quick demonstration. I play all of these instruments in my flute group called fluterific.ca. And the baby of the family that you might also play, especially if you are in band and you have developed your third octave on the flute and the embouchure is able to support the high notes, because the piccolo plays an octave higher than the flute. So it's the highest member of your band and probably the orchestra. And I do find that most people sitting near the piccolo, including the piccolo player, will have at least one earplug in for some of these notes. So moving on to the next member in the family, actually the highest is the piccolo, then there's the flute, they're both in C, and then there's this guy. I love my alto flute. And so this instrument here has a curved head joint in order to make it easier for me to play. You can get them with a straight head joint. And the alto flute does this kind of thing. And I am also very happy to say that I own and play the bass flute. This is the biggest guy that you can typically find for the flute family. And it's bigger tube and a longer tube. So I mentioned earlier that I also teach the whistle. Not that one. There's another one, sometimes called a penny whistle, sometimes called an Irish whistle, and sometimes called a tin whistle. But of course, you can play more than Irish music, and it's sometimes made of wood. Also, you will find them in plastic, very easily available. And so that's this guy here. And also, I play and I can teach you his cousin, which is the fife, F-I-F-E. As you can see here, these two instruments are basically the same. Whoopsies, down below. 6 holes and a head joint on these types. Okay, now these are 2 different types of wood, so they will sound different, but the biggest difference between them, because essentially they look the same, is that the fife is played as a transverse flute, much like those other flutes. You have to have an embouchure and be able to create sound across a hole here, and no keys. The whistle And to complete our tour, of course, I can't forget to mention one of the most popular instruments to learn around the world, and that is, of course, the piano. I have one right here. It's very handy. Now, what you might also notice is there's a strange contraption up here behind me. This is my second camera. So there's this camera for speaking, and then there's this camera. As you can see, this second camera gives us a great demonstration of where to put the fingers. I find this very helpful, and so do my students. This little guy here is a marker for middle C, so you can kind of get a sense. So that concludes the tour of my virtual studio. Thanks for visiting with me today. If you are interested in learning any of these instruments, just drop me a line and let me know. The beautiful thing about virtual lessons is that you can be anywhere and have a lesson. Just have to coordinate our time zones. So, from my studio to you, hope you're having a lovely day, and we'll see you soon.